What if I told you that everything you're chasing is already chasing you? You're just blocking it. This book unlocked what years of struggle couldn't. This is not just a book. It's a portal to the life you've been praying for. In a world full of chaos, distractions, and doubts, one book is quietly transforming lives across the globe. Manifest and Receive by Eva Hartley isn't just another law of attraction manual. It's a spiritual wake-up call. Whether you want financial freedom, true love, inner peace, or purpose, this video breaks down the essence of that transformation. Stick around, because your next breakthrough may be one belief away. Today we dive into 13 life-changing truths from Manifest and Receive by Eva Hartley, a book that holds the power to transform your life forever, because if you embody these principles, everything you desire won't just be possible, it will become inevitable. Number 1. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. These words are simple on the surface, yet when you sit in silence and truly feel them, they carry the weight of a lifetime's truth, one that Eva Hartley pours into the pages of her book like a sacred whisper from the soul. Most people go through life thinking that desire alone is the driver of destiny, that if they want something bad enough, success, love, peace, healing, the sheer intensity of that wanting will somehow pull it toward them like metal to a magnet. But this belief is not only flawed, it is the very reason many people never receive the things they cry for at night or daydream about in silence. Because wanting is not attracting, is not deciding, is not at wanting, in fact, often means you are reinforcing the absence of what you desire. When you say, I want love, you are unconsciously affirming that love is missing. When you say, I want success, you are declaring to the universe that you're still without it. So the vibration you are emitting is not one of fulfillment, but of lack, of emptiness, of yearning, of being incomplete. The universe, like an echo chamber, does not respond to the words you speak, but to the energy you carry. It hears not your wishes, but your frequency. This is where Eva Hartley shifts the entire paradigm. She teaches that manifestation is not about begging or convincing the universe to give you something. It is about becoming the version of yourself who already has it, thinks from it, lives in it. You must embody the state of already being that which you desire to receive. This is not mere positive thinking. This is energetic identity. You can't cheat this system. You can't fake it with words while secretly vibrating with fear, doubt, jealousy, or scarcity. You become a match, not by forcing results, but by shifting your inner reality. Want a different life? Become a different version of yourself. One that aligns not with the pain of your past, but the peace of your potential. When you become abundance, abundance finds you. When you become love, love is drawn to you. Now, today we are going to continue. When you become peace, your chaos dissolves. It's no longer about saying the right affirmations at 6 a.m. or journaling your dreams with scented candles. It's about recalibrating your energy field, moment by moment, into coherence with what you claim to want. Eva often uses the analogy of a radio tower. Every emotion, every thought, every belief you hold is a broadcast frequency. If you're tuned to 88.7 FM, but your dream life is broadcasting at 104.3, it doesn't matter how loudly you scream into the sky. You won't hear the song unless you shift your frequency. That's why so many people give up on manifestation and say, it doesn't work. But it's not the principle that's broken. It's the user that's misaligned. So how do you realign? So you sow Say you broke your way to the moon. The same day you realign, first you get radically honest. Who are you? Really? In the quiet of your own mind. What do you believe you deserve deep down when no one's watching? Because your outer life is a mirror of your inner patterns. Eva invites us to observe our emotional default settings. Do you walk through the world in gratitude or resentment? Do you assume things will work out or that everything always goes wrong? Your assumptions aren't harmless thoughts, they are energetic blueprints. The universe is not biased toward good or bad. It simply reflects your dominant vibration. That's why people who always expect miracles often receive them, and those who expect betrayal often attract it again and again. It's not because they're lucky or cursed. It's because their inner self-pigment acts like a magnet. You're not getting what you want, you're getting who you are. And that's both the warning and the breakthrough. Because once you realize this, you're no longer a victim of circumstance, but a conscious co-creator of your life. You begin to walk differently. You begin to speak from certainty instead of desperation. You don't hope for love, you embody the vibration of being loved and lovable. You don't hustle for validation, you stand in your worth as someone who already has value. You stop begging life to be kind to you, and instead you start treating yourself with such kindness and respect that the world has no choice but to mirror it. Eva reminds us that the inner world and outer world are not two, they are reflections. And you can't fake who you are to the mirror. It will always show you back your true face. So if you desire abundance, become someone who feels safe with money, not afraid of it. If you desire healing, stop identifying as broken. If you want better relationships, stop carrying the identity of someone who is always abandoned. Start rewriting the script in your soul, not just in your mouth. Because energy doesn't lie, and neither does the universe. It will meet you not at your level of need, but at your level of self-identity. The great secret is this: when you raise your frequency to match your desire, the desire no longer feels far. It feels inevitable. That's how manifestation works, not as a trick of chance, but as a spiritual equation. Your being equals your receiving. And this doesn't happen overnight. You will have to confront the deepest wounds of unworthiness. You'll have to unlearn decades of survival-based thinking. You'll have to stretch into new emotional ranges, where joy no longer feels foreign and safety is no longer tied to suffering. And safety is no longer tied to suffering. This is not easy work, but it is sacred work. And it is the only path that truly transforms. Because nothing around you can shift until the energy within you does. You'll notice this when you begin to vibrate higher. Suddenly, people who once ignored you now respect you. Opportunities that were once locked shut now open with ease. Why? Because you've changed the magnet. You've updated your signal. You're no longer saying, please pick me, but radiating, I know who I am. And the world moves in response to that kind of clarity. You'll stop needing things so badly, and ironically, that's when they start flowing in. You'll stop checking the clock and the calendar because you're no longer in a rush. You trust the process. You become calm, grounded, centered, and from that state, all things begin to move toward you. You may lose some people, yes. You may outgrow certain environments. That's the price of becoming. But you'll gain yourself. And from that inner gain, outer riches flow. That's what Eva Hartley's message truly means. Manifestation isn't about getting things. It's about returning to who you were before you were told you weren't enough. It's about peeling away the masks, shedding the fear, healing the scarcity, and choosing again and again to be the version of you that matches the life you dream about. It's no longer about chasing, it's about becoming. And once you become it, truly, deeply, consistently, you don't have to force anything. You simply receive. Because now you are the magnet. Number 2, desperation blocks reception. There is a quiet force that repels blessings faster than any curse. A silent energy that pushes away the very things you pray for, and that force is desperation. Desperation is not just a feeling, it is a vibration, an energy signature that screams to the universe, I do not believe I will receive. It is rooted not in faith, but in fear, not in alignment, but in panic. Eva Hartley teaches this profound truth with piercing clarity. The moment you begin to beg, plead, and chase what you want, you shift out of the energy of magnetism and into the energy of resistance. Desperation is not passion, it is not desire, it is lack, disguised as intensity. It tells the universe that you believe the thing you desire is far, unavailable, withheld, or worse, impossible. And so, your energy becomes out of sync with the frequency of receiving. Imagine standing in a field and shouting at the sky for rain, screaming louder and louder, panicking that it may never come. And all the while, the clouds hover quietly, waiting for your stillness, your trust, your surrender, so they can pour. This is how life responds to us. The louder your internal chaos, the slower the manifestation arrives. And the tragedy is, so many people confuse desperation with devotion. Confuse desperation with devotion. They say, I've wanted this so bad, for so long, why hasn't it come? But what they don't realize is that the very neediness of their wanting is sending out a signal of energetic unworthiness. The universe reads your signal, not your sentences. And when your signal is soaked in fear, anxiety, and time-based urgency, you unintentionally affirm that what you want is separate from you, beyond you, maybe even above you. Desperation operates from a place of inner poverty. It says, if I don't get this, I am not whole, I am not safe, I am not enough. And so your entire being becomes a repelling force, not because you're unworthy, but because your energy is distorted. Eva Hartley reveals that the path to reception is not through control or clinging, but through calmness and certainty. To receive what you want, you must become the person who would naturally have it. And that person is never desperate. 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 That person is aligned. That person is steady. That person trusts. Think about it. The most magnetic people you've ever met weren't the ones begging for attention. They were the ones who knew their worth, who walked in rooms like they belonged there, who expected goodness and therefore attracted it. Their secret wasn't arrogance, it was alignment. The same is true for everything you're trying to manifest. Whether it's love, wealth, healing, or opportunity, it cannot land in a space of energetic chaos. It cannot bloom in soil drenched in self-doubt. When you're desperate, you suffocate the process. You hold the dream so tightly that you squeeze the life out of it. You constantly check if it's coming, when it's coming, how it's coming, and every time you do, you emit a vibration of distrust. You're saying to the universe, I don't believe it's on its way, so I must keep checking. And when you do that, you cannot bloom and end up saying to the universe, I don't believe it's on its way, so I must keep checking. But just like a watched pot never boils, a constantly doubted manifestation never arrives. Eva explains that true receiving happens in the state of detachment. Not detachment from the desire, but from the outcome. It is the sacred in-between space, where you can deeply want something while also being at peace if it doesn't arrive on your timeline. That's not passivity, that's power. Because when you release the grip of desperation, you make room for destiny. You become an open vessel instead of a clenched fist. You shift from please let it come to of course it's coming. And in that shift, everything begins to move. Desperation also lowers your self-perception. When you chase love with desperation, you accept crumbs. When you chase money with desperation, you make poor decisions. When you chase validation with desperation, you lose yourself. It is a hunger that cannot be fed because its root is not the absence of things, but the absence of trust. Eva calls this the starvation of the soul, where you are so empty inside that you look to the outside world to fill you, but you're so frantic in that search that everything keeps slipping through your hands. That's why some people attract a little success and then lose it, or find a little love only to sabotage it. Because desperation creates instability. It cannot hold what it catches, like water in shaking hands. So, what's the solution? You slow down. You regulate your nervous system. You ground your body. You remind yourself, what is mine is already finding me. I don't need to chase it. I need to align with it. You stop performing and start becoming. You stop asking, when will it come? And start affirming, I am becoming the version of me who naturally receives this. You treat yourself with so much care, so much reverence, so much worthiness that the universe takes note. Desperation evaporates when you realize you are the source. You are not missing anything. You are not running out of time. You are not falling behind. Your desire is not being withheld. It is being prepared. Your job is not to grab it by force, but to match it by frequency. When you begin to walk through the world with that kind of energetic certainty, life softens in your favor. The phone call comes. The offer appears. The right person notices you. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped blocking it. You got out of your own way. You surrendered your fear. You began to embody trust. And trust is the soil where miracles grow. It is the quiet knowing that what's meant for you cannot miss you, and what misses you was never yours to begin with. Eva teaches that trust is the opposite of desperation, and trust must be practiced, not just preached. It shows up in how you speak to yourself when nothing is happening, in how you hold faith when the evidence says otherwise, in how you choose peace over panic again and again. This inner rewiring is the real work of manifestation, not the vision boards, not the 5-step rituals, but the moment-by-moment decision to stay aligned even in the unknown, even in the delay, even in the silence, especially in the silence, because that is where your vibration speaks the loudest. And the universe always responds to your signal. When you finally let go of the chase, when you stop vibrating with desperation and begin to vibrate with deep-rooted faith, you become magnetic, truly magnetic. You stop talking about how much you want it, and you start moving like it's already yours. You shift from doubt to destiny. You become a calm receiver instead of a panicked seeker. And the world around you, like a mirror, long fogged up, begins to reflect that inner shift with breathtaking precision. That is the secret Eva Hartley whispers between the lines of her book. The moment you release desperation, the universe breathes a sigh of relief, because now, finally, you are ready to receive. Number 3. Feeling is the frequency of receiving. If there is one secret that separates those who manifest with ease from those who struggle for years without results, it is this. Feeling is the frequency of receiving. Not thinking, not wishing, not hoping, but feeling deeply, fully in every cell of your being is the true magnet that pulls your desire into your reality. Eva Hartley returns to this truth again and again, not because it is poetic, but because it is the essence of manifestation. The universe responds not to the words you say, but to the emotional tone you live in. You can say 1,000 affirmations with your mouth, but if your heart is soaked in fear and your nervous system is vibrating in lack, then you are not a match for what you want, no matter how beautifully you say it. This is where most people go wrong. They think that manifestation is mental, but it is energetic. They focus on scripting, journaling, and visualizing, all of which are helpful tools. But if they do not engage the emotional body, they are simply writing stories that never leave the page. Eva teaches that your emotions are the language of the universe, and every emotion carries a frequency. Joy vibrates high, gratitude vibrates high, love, certainty, peace, empowerment, all of them operate in the range where manifestation flows easily. But fear, worry, anxiety, jealousy, self-doubt, these drag your frequency down and block your ability to receive. It's not about punishing yourself for low emotions. You are human after all. But it is about becoming conscious of your dominant emotional state and understanding that it is not neutral. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are sending out a broadcast. That broadcast either says, I trust, or it says, I lack. It either says, I have, or it says, I am still waiting. And the universe does not listen to the content of your prayers. It listens to the energy beneath them. You could pray for abundance every night, but if you live each day in the emotion of fear and financial panic, you are still aligned with scarcity. You are not receiving from your desire, you are reacting from your wound. That's why Eva emphasizes the importance of embodiment. To manifest love, don't just write about your ideal partner. Feel what it would be like to already be in that relationship. Wake up in that energy. Move through your day as if you are already cherished, safe, held, adored. Speak to yourself with the tone of someone who is loved. Dress like someone who is desired. Walk like someone who is not searching but chosen. That feeling, not the story, is what pulls the reality closer. It's the same with money. Don't just visualize wealth, feel into abundance. What would safety feel like in your body if you knew all your needs were met? What would peace feel like if you didn't have to hustle to survive? What would joy feel like if money flowed with ease, without guilt or shame? That emotional state is the target, and once you feel it consistently, even before the thing arrives, you become the frequency of it. You match the energy of your future, and therefore you meet it in the present. Because manifestation is not a future-based act. It is a now-based alignment. This is the paradox that Eva makes so beautifully clear. You must feel it before it comes. You must be it before you see it. You must live as if, not pretend, not fake, but genuinely embody the emotion of the thing you're calling in. This is where most people get stuck. They wait for the result to give them permission to feel. I'll feel confident once I have success. I'll feel happy once I find love. I'll feel grateful once the money comes. But Eva flips the script. She says, the feeling is not the result. It's the cause. The universe does not reward feelings after the blessing arrives. The universe releases the blessing because you already feel as if it's here. This is why gratitude is so powerful. Not because it's polite, but because it creates a signal of completion. When you say thank you in advance, you tell the universe, I already know it's done. You collapse the timeline between your now and your desire. Gratitude is the feeling of receiving before receiving. And that is a frequency the universe cannot ignore. But this is not easy at first, especially if life has taught you to brace for disappointment. If your nervous system is wired for survival, if your heart has been broken, if your expectations have been crushed again and again, then feeling good can feel dangerous. That's why Eva teaches that this practice of emotional alignment must begin with safety. You must learn to feel good without fear, to feel joy without guilt, to feel worthy without earning it. You train your body slowly, lovingly, gently to hold positive emotion as a safe, natural state. Not something that gets punished, but something that gets multiplied. You allow your inner child, long denied, to believe again, and from that place, you begin to unlock the true power of feeling. It's not performance, it's presence. When you feel like someone who already has what they want, you stop chasing, you stop doubting, you stop questioning whether it's working. Your very vibration says, I am. And that's the most powerful statement in the universe. I am abundant. I am loved. I am whole. Those words, when felt, not just spoken, become the seeds of manifestation. They turn your being into fertile ground. They turn your frequency into a beacon. And life begins to respond. Not always instantly, but inevitably. Because when you hold the right feeling long enough, the outer world eventually matches the inner world. It cannot resist the pull. This is what Eva means when she says that manifestation is a process of becoming, not begging. When you become the emotional match, the desire has no choice but to appear. It's like tuning a radio. If you want to hear classical music, you don't beg the radio to play it, you simply tune to the right frequency. And once you're tuned in, the music is already there. You didn't create it, you aligned with it. In the same way, your dream life already exists, not as fiction, but as frequency. Your job is to feel your way into it, to live as if, to love as if, to lead as if. We are so fortunate to be living in a time where there is so much option and where you feel your way into it. To live as if, to live as if, to live as if, in the way you are, you have to feel your way into it. To be teacher, to be loved, to breathe as if. Every day, not as a chore, but as a sacred practice. And when it gets hard, and it will, you come back to the feeling. Not the image, not the outcome, but the feeling. Because feelings are the fuel, they are the signal, they are the point. This is why people who feel good tend to live good lives. It's not coincidence, it's cause and effect. Your dominant emotional state writes your destiny. That's the message Eva delivers with both compassion and fire. You are already broadcasting your future with every emotion you choose today. So choose wisely, choose boldly, choose consciously. You may not control every thought, but you can guide your focus. You can direct your energy. You can return over and over to the frequency of joy, love, trust, power, peace. Not because the outside is perfect, but because you've decided to be magnetic. You've decided to become a receiver. Not by force, not by fear, but by feeling. And that feeling, that vibration, is the real secret behind every miracle. Number 4, rewrite the subconscious narrative. There is a silent story playing inside you, a hidden script that no one sees but everyone feels. Through the choices you make, the limits you accept, the patterns you repeat, and the dreams you doubt. And Eva Hartley, in her Soul Awakening teachings, reminds us with unwavering clarity that if you don't rewrite the subconscious narrative running your life, no amount of manifesting rituals, affirmations, or visualizations will ever lead to real transformation. Because the subconscious mind is the gatekeeper of your reality, the hidden engine behind every decision, reaction, and emotional default. And what's stored there is not logic but identity, programming and memory etched in from the earliest years of your life when you had no filters, no shields, no critical thinking, only absorption, only open download from the world around you. If as a child you were taught, directly or indirectly, that you are not enough, that love must be earned, that safety comes from control, that money is hard to get, that dreams are dangerous, or that joy is followed by punishment, then those lessons became imprints in your subconscious. And even as an adult, trying to manifest new outcomes, you're still operating on outdated scripts written by pain, fear, and survival. So, in that instance, becoming that person that deserved better, written by pain, fear, and survival. That's why you can want love but keep pushing it away. That's why you can pray for wealth but subconsciously sabotage abundance. That's why you can desire freedom and still feel trapped. Because your subconscious beliefs, the ones you didn't choose but inherited, are creating a ceiling you can't break, a loop you can't exit, until you bring them to the surface and rewrite them with intention, truth, and deep emotional alignment. God doesn't ask us to blame our past. She asks us to become aware of its invisible grip. Because without that awareness, you'll keep confusing your trauma for your truth, your wound for your wisdom, and you'll fight against shadows, thinking they're reality. Your subconscious mind controls up to 95% of your life. That means you're only consciously choosing 5%. The rest is automation, memory, programming, and pattern. And here lies the miracle. What was once programmed into you without your consent, you now have the power to reprogram with deliberate intent. But this isn't surface work. This is soul work. This isn't just changing what you think. It's transforming what you believe to be possible for you at the deepest emotional level. Because until you change who you think you are, you cannot sustainably change what you experience. If your subconscious says, I'm not worthy of love, then no relationship, no matter how beautiful, will feel safe. If your subconscious says, money is dangerous, you will unconsciously repel wealth even while chasing it. If your subconscious says, success makes me alone, you'll self-sabotage every time you close to breakthrough. The subconscious narrative is the thermostat of your life, and no matter how high you consciously turn the dial, you'll always be pulled back to the temperature your inner programming believes is safe. So how do you rewrite it? Eva guides us into this sacred process, not through force or denial, but through awareness, compassion, repetition, and emotional realignment. First, you become the observer. You start to catch the inner critic, the scarcity loop, the fear that shows up every time something good begins. You notice the moments you shrink, the stories you tell yourself about why you can't, why it won't work, why it's too late. You journal these thoughts, not to entertain them, but to expose them. Because what is exposed can be healed. Second, you question the source. Where did I first learn this? Second thing, you explore the source. Where did I first learn this? Who told me this? Is this belief mine or is it inherited? Often you'll find that the limiting belief came from a parent's struggle, a teacher's comment, a childhood wound, or a generational pattern passed down without question. But just because it was given to you does not mean it belongs to you. And the moment you separate yourself from the belief, you loosen its grip. Third, you introduce a new narrative, not just in your head, but in your body, in your nervous system, in your emotional landscape. You create affirmations that don't just sound good, but feel safe. I am worthy of love even when I am not perfect. It is safe for me to have more than enough. Success can be peaceful, not stressful. These aren't just words, they are new neurological pathways being carved in your mind, new grooves being created in your reality map. But here's the key. Your subconscious doesn't change through logic. It changes through feeling and repetition. So you must feel these new beliefs emotionally. You must sit with them, breathe them in, repeat them when you're calm and also when you're triggered. You must reparent the scared parts of you that still believe they're not enough, not safe, not lovable. Eva emphasizes this emotional repetition because your subconscious doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. The more often you flood it with new emotional truths, the more it begins to update your internal programming. This takes time. You don't undo 20 years of fear in 20 minutes of journaling. But every time you choose the new thought, every time you calm your nervous system, every time you anchor into the upgraded belief, you are rewriting the narrative. Not just in your mind, but in your energy field. And as your energy shifts, your results begin to mirror that shift. You'll notice you no longer tolerate chaos. You no longer chase validation. You no longer attach your worth to outcomes. You'll begin to attract different people, different opportunities, not because the world changed, but because you change, the version of you that the world meets. The world responds to your subconscious identity, and when you shift that identity, your whole life realigns. What once felt out of reach now feels natural. What once felt scary now feels exciting. You stop surviving and start receiving. You stop doubting and start allowing. This is the true power of rewriting the subconscious. It frees you from inherited limitation and returns you to your divine potential. It gives you back the pen. It allows you to say, I choose who I am. I choose what I believe. I choose what I allow. And this choice, made daily, becomes your liberation. Eva Hartley calls this energetic rebirth. The moment when you stop living from your wounds and start creating from your worth. And that's not just healing, that's transformation. That's when you stop manifesting from desperation and start manifesting from identity. Not, I want to be abundant, but I am abundance. Not, I hope someone loves me, but I radiate love. Not, I'll be enough when, but I am enough now. And when that becomes your truth, not just intellectually, but emotionally, energetically, spiritually, the universe has no choice but to reflect it. Because your reality is nothing more than a projection of your inner script. Change the script, and the movie changes. Rewrite the subconscious, and the life rewrites itself. This is the work Eva invites you into. Not to become someone new, but to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget, before the fear, before the doubt, before the limitation, that you, whole, powerful, infinite, still lives within you, waiting not to be created, but to be remembered, reclaimed, and rewritten into every page of your story, moving forward. Number 5. Self-worth is the manifestation multiplier. If there is one unseen force that controls the speed, strength, and stability of every manifestation, it is not desire, discipline, or even belief. It is self-worth. And Eva Hartley teaches with unwavering clarity that self-worth is not just a personal issue, it is an energetic currency. It is the hidden switch behind everything you allow or block in your life, and until you update your sense of worth, your reality will always reflect the outdated version of yourself that you secretly believe is all you deserve. Because manifestation doesn't come from begging, hoping, or even working the hardest. It comes from becoming a vibrational match for what you desire. And that match is always rooted in worthiness, in the inner knowing that what you ask for is not just possible, but natural for someone like you. And here's the core truth most people never confront. You are not receiving what you want. You are receiving what you believe you are worthy of. And no matter how many affirmations you chant or vision boards you create, if deep down you feel unworthy of love, of money, of peace, of joy, then you will subconsciously block, delay, or sabotage the very blessings you crave, because your subconscious mind will never let you hold on to something that contradicts your inner identity. And this is why Eva says that healing your self-worth is not optional, it is foundational. It is the ground beneath your manifestations. It is the multiplier. The more worthy you feel, the more you expand your receiving channel, and the faster, fuller, and more gracefully your desires flow into your life. And not because the universe was withholding from you, but because you were unconsciously withholding from yourself. Because when you don't feel worthy, you deflect compliments, you undercharge your gifts, you date people who don't honor you, you stay in jobs that drain you, you say yes when you mean no, you overgive, overproof, over-apologize, and then wonder why the universe isn't responding. But it is. It's responding perfectly to your energetic broadcast, and that broadcast is formed not by what you say, but by how you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you hold yourself in your own emotional arms when no one is watching. Because worthiness is not just about self-esteem, it's about self-permission. It's about saying, I allow this level of love, this level of ease, this level of joy. And the moment you give yourself that permission, you shift your entire frequency. Because high self-worth is quiet, calm, and magnetic. It doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it blesses. It doesn't compare, it commands. And this is the inner glow that changes the way the world responds to you. Because people, opportunities, and outcomes are simply mirrors reflecting the way you treat yourself. And if your internal dialogue is laced with shame, guilt, scarcity, and self-rejection, then you are vibrating at a level that cannot support the high-quality manifestations you're asking for. Not because you don't deserve them, but because you won't feel safe enough to receive them, to hold them, to keep them. And this is why Eva teaches that worthiness must be embodied, not just understood. Because you can read every book, attend every seminar, and still feel like an imposter if you haven't addressed the emotional wounds underneath your self-concept. The moments in your life where you learned to believe that your value was conditional, based on performance, perfection, approval, or sacrifice. And those beliefs don't just go away with logic. They have to be rewritten through experience, repetition, and compassionate self-repair. And it starts with choosing. Choosing to see yourself as someone who is inherently valuable, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Not because of what you produce, but because you exist. Because your world is not a reward, it is your birthright. And the more you reconnect with that truth, the more your world shifts to meet you there. You'll stop chasing people who don't see you. You'll stop settling for less than you need. You'll stop negotiating your needs to make others comfortable. Because now, your energy will say, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not afraid to eat alone. And from that posture of inner power, everything changes. Because when you radiate worthiness, you don't have to force anything. You simply receive. You become a magnet for aligned love, for financial ease, for soul-nourishing friendships, for peaceful expansion, not because you're lucky, but because you've done the inner work to raise your receiving ceiling, and you no longer block or question the good. You let it in, you trust it, you honor it, and you hold it, because now it matches who you've become. And this is the truth Eva speaks into your bones. Self-worth is the container that holds your manifestation, and the size of that container determines how much you can actually receive without fear, guilt, or self-sabotage. So if you're wondering why things aren't arriving, ask yourself, do I actually feel safe with the level of love I'm calling in? Do I actually believe I deserve the wealth I'm asking for? Do I believe I am good enough to rest, to shine, to be seen, to be celebrated? Because your answer to these questions will tell you everything about the subconscious blocks that may be distorting your signal. And when you begin to clean those distortions with love, presence, and conscious reprogramming, you'll notice how your external life begins to reflect your internal upgrades. You'll start receiving things you used to dream about, not because they're finally being sent, but because you finally feel worthy of holding them. And worthiness isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's coming back into agreement with your divine nature. It's reclaiming the parts of you that were taught to shrink, to hide, to earn love by betraying yourself. And Eva's message is this: you don't have to become worthy. You already are. You just have to unlearn the lie that you're not. And once you do, once you look in the mirror and see someone who is enough, who is deserving, who is ready, the universe sees it too and begins to rearrange in your favor. Not because you proved yourself, but because you remembered yourself. And from that remembrance, you begin to manifest a life that finally feels like home. Number 6, the feminine principle. Receive without force. There is a silent power so often misunderstood in the modern world. A force not rooted in action, competition, or control, but in flow, surrender, and magnetism. And Eva Hartley, in her soul awakening work, Manifest and Receive, brings this truth to light with divine clarity by revealing what she calls the feminine principle, the sacred ability to receive without force, to call things in not by chasing them down, but by becoming a vibrational match so deeply aligned with your desires that the universe cannot help but respond. Because while most of the world worships the masculine path, action, logic, hustle, performance, domination, Eva reminds us that there is another way, a softer yet infinitely more powerful path, and that is the path of feminine energy, not defined by gender, but by energetic state, an inner place where trust replaces control, where stillness replaces struggle, where attraction replaces pursuit, where being becomes more potent than doing, and in a culture addicted to hustle, burnout, and over-affording, where self-worth is often tied to productivity and rest is mistaken for laziness, this feminine principle feels foreign, even dangerous, because we've been taught that unless we're pushing, striving, fixing, planning, controlling, we're falling behind. But this belief system is rooted in fear, in scarcity, in the illusion that manifestation only responds to labor, when in truth, the universe responds not to how hard you work, but how clean your energy is. And the feminine principle is the frequency of clean, clear, aligned energy that magnetizes outcomes without needing to chase them, because it understands that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and you don't need to grip life so tightly to prove your worth or earn your desires. Instead, you become still enough, receptive enough, embodied enough to receive them. And this shift from force to flow changes everything, not because you stop taking action, but because your action is now inspired, not frantic, guided, not grasping, magnetic, not mechanical. You move when it's time to move, not out of fear. You're running out of time. And in that sacred stillness, you begin to access a deeper knowing that says, I don't need to chase what I already am. Because the feminine doesn't pursue, it prepares, it invites, it receives. And when you step into this principle, you stop asking, how do I make this happen? And start asking, who do I need to become to allow this in? A radical shift from control to co-creation, from panic to presence. And Eva teaches that receiving is an art, a vibration, a softening into the truth that your power lies not in how much you can push, but in how much you can hold. Hold energy, hold frequency, hold belief, hold desire, hold joy, without rushing to force an outcome. And this is not passive. This is sacred embodiment, the kind that says, I trust myself, I trust the timing, I trust life, and in that trust, the universe rushes to fill the space you've opened through surrender. Because force creates friction, but receptivity creates flow. And you begin to realize that the more you let go of needing to make it happen, the faster it arrives, not because you gave up, but because you stopped resisting the very thing trying to come to you. And this principle is especially powerful for those who have been wounded by hustle, those who've been in survival mode for so long that they don't know what it feels like to rest without guilt, to pause without panic, to let go without fear. And for them, the feminine path is not weakness, it is medicine, a spiritual recalibration that says you are allowed to receive simply because you exist. You don't have to prove your worth to the universe. Your worth is what calls the blessings in. And the more you deepen into that self-worth, the more easily life begins to move in your favor, because feminine energy is rooted in trust. Trust in your timing, trust in your intuition, trust in your divine ability to call forth what you need through alignment, not exhaustion. And it doesn't mean you never act. It means you don't act until you're aligned, until the inner signal says go. And when you move from that place, your action becomes exponential, powerful, swift, and effective, because it is backed by universal flow, not egoic pressure. And this is the secret most people miss in the manifestation journey. They burn themselves out trying to control every detail, trying to micromanage the universe, trying to make things happen. But the feminine principle says, allow it to happen, prepare for it, believe in it, and rest in the knowing that it is already yours. And this is not fantasy, this is quantum law, because when your energy is clear and your belief is embodied, you begin to live in the timeline where your desire has already manifested, and the outer world simply catches up to your inner state, and you find yourself walking in grace, in synchronicity, in miracles that feel natural, not because you fought for them, but because you stopped fighting yourself, stopped doubting your worth, stopped clinging to outcomes, and started living in alignment with what already belongs to you. And the feminine teaches you to make space for what you want, to open emotionally, spiritually, energetically, to trust that the work you've done is enough, that the vision you hold is valid, that the universe is always working behind the scenes on your behalf. And this trust becomes the container through which you receive not just what you've asked for, but what you didn't even know you needed. Because feminine receptivity is not about getting what you want, it's about becoming who you really are, so you can receive what aligns with your highest truth. And in this way, receiving becomes not a passive hope, but an active embodiment, a deep spiritual practice where you learn to hold joy without waiting for the other shoe to drop, to sit in peace without thinking you're falling behind, To feel beautiful without needing external validation. To rest without needing to justify it. And in that wholeness, everything changes. Your relationships deepen. Your creativity flourishes. Your finances expand. Not because you chase these outcomes, but because you stopped leaking your energy into fear and started channeling it into presence. And this is what Eva Hartley means when she says, receive without force, not to avoid action, but to elevate your consciousness to a level where action is no longer driven by desperation, but by devotion, by inspiration, by divine timing. And when you live this way, you don't need to convince the world of your power. Your energy speaks it for you. You don't need to manipulate people into loving you. Your self-love draws in those who match it. You don't need to run yourself into the ground for money. Your abundance consciousness becomes a magnet. And the moment you realize that your most powerful manifestations come from the stillness of being, not the strain of doing, is the moment your entire life enters flow. Not because you gave up, but because you finally came home to your own alignment, your own essence, your own divine truth that says, I am enough, I am ready, I allow, I receive. And from that vibration, that deeply embodied, magnetic feminine vibration, you manifest not with pressure, but with presence. Not with hustle, but with heart. And the universe finally, unhindered by your resistance, rushes in to fill the space you've opened, not as a reward for doing everything right, but as a reflection of who you've become. A clear, open, aligned vessel of receiving, of grace, of miracles, of magic. Number 7, the power of thank you before it happens. There is a hidden law of manifestation that few ever truly understand. A sacred code that, when practiced with sincerity, has the power to collapse timelines, accelerate outcomes, and unlock the miraculous. And Eva Hartley, in her teachings, calls this law the power of thank you before it happens, the vibrational secret of gratitude in advance. And though it may seem simple on the surface, it is in truth the most profound and spiritually advanced frequency you can embody, because it requires the ultimate surrender, the deepest trust, the boldest form of faith, the kind of faith that thanks the universe not when the blessing arrives, but before, not when the evidence is visible, but when it's only a whisper in your soul, not when the circumstances are perfect, but when nothing yet makes sense, and still you bow your head and whisper, thank you, because I know it's already done. And in that moment, something powerful happens. Your energy changes, your signal shifts, your entire electromagnetic field aligns with the version of you who has already received. And this alignment, this emotional congruence between your desire and your vibration is what cracks open the flow of manifestation, because the universe doesn't just respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being now. And when you embody gratitude in advance, you stop being someone who is waiting, hoping, begging, or doubting, and you become someone who is receiving, allowing, trusting, and aligned. And Eva teaches this not as a philosophy, but as a spiritual technology, a living practice that rewires your nervous system, dissolves scarcity, overrides the subconscious blocks of not yet, and tells life itself, I already feel what it will feel like when it comes, so you might as well bring it now. Because gratitude is more than a thank you. It's a frequency of completion, a signal of fulfillment, a vibration that says, it's already mine. And in quantum reality, where time is fluid and outcomes are vibrationally attracted, that feeling is the manifestation. And when you stay in that space long enough, not just occasionally, but consistently, emotionally, reverently, the physical form of your desire must meet you, not because you forced it, but because you felt it first. And this is what separates wishful thinking from embodied receiving. Because most people only say thank you after the result, which is logical, safe, expected. But Eva dares us to thank before, to thank while it's still invisible, to thank through the silence, to thank while it's storming, to thank in the dark. And this is not delusion, this is declaration, a bold, energetic announcement that says, I trust so deeply. I'm celebrating before the outcome even arrives. And the moment you do that, you flip the script, you become the script, and your external life begins to echo the certainty of your internal reality. Because you're no longer vibrating with lack or separation, but with completion. And the universe matches your energy always. And when your energy says, thank you, I know it's mine, the universe aligns the people, places, and opportunities to reflect that knowing back to you. And here's the beauty, Eva reveals. This isn't about manipulating the universe. It's about becoming the version of yourself who doesn't need to be convinced anymore. The one who walks in faith, so unshakable that the manifestation becomes inevitable. And this is the frequency where miracles live, the space where timelines collapse, the realm where one moment of felt gratitude can do what years of mental struggle could not. Because when you feel the emotion of already having it, whether it's the love, the home, the healing, the money, the peace, you become one with the version of you who lives in that reality. And from there, everything begins to rearrange, not because you demanded it, but because you received it energetically first. And now the physical is just catching up. And this is why Eva says, if you want to speed it up, stop trying so hard to get and start learning how to thank, how to feel, how to soften into the certainty that what's meant for you is not just possible, it's promise. And your job is to meet the promise in vibration before you see it in sight. And she teaches that true gratitude, the kind that shifts destiny, is not about faking it or forcing it, but about choosing it in the face of delay, disappointment, and the unknown. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by dint. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by dint. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by dint. The tool to call your desires and your insight is to put it all together by, and this is the spiritual muscle few are willing to build, because it asks you to believe when there's no evidence, to rejoice before you've received, to stand in the dark and say thank you. With tears in your eyes and trembling in your voice, not because you're pretending, but because you've decided to trust that deeply. And that trust is what opens the floodgates. That trust is what changes your chemistry, your magnetism, your timeline. Because the moment you feel it fully is the moment the universe responds. And sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it takes time, but the delay is never punishment. It's preparation, calibration, divine orchestration, moving behind the scenes in ways you can't yet see. And your gratitude becomes the beacon that keeps your energy clean, your heart open, your signal strong, so that when it does arrive, you're not surprised. You're ready. And you meet the miracle as someone who always knew it was coming. And that is the most powerful way to receive, with peace, with poise, with presence, with praise, because you didn't just want it, you welcomed it in advance. You honored it before it appeared. And in doing so, you honored yourself, your path, your connection to the infinite, because this practice is not just about getting what you want. It's about becoming someone who lives in permanent partnership with the divine. Someone who wakes up and says, thank you. And then on this earth, you honored it by becoming. Someone who wakes up and says, thank you. And then on this earth, you honored it by becoming. It's not something you do. 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 It's not before the day begins, someone who plants seeds of praise even when the ground looks barren, someone who trusts that the invisible world is more real than the one we see, and who walks as though the universe is conspiring in her favor, because it is, because it always was. And your gratitude is the proof that you believe it. And Eva's invitation is to make this your new way of being, to let thank you be your mantra, your medicine, your magnetic pull, to wake up saying it, to go to sleep whispering it, to speak it over your life, over your body, over your bank account, over your future, even while it's still unfolding, and not because you're trying to trick the universe, but because you're choosing to align with the highest frequency of truth, that you are safe, supported, chosen, worthy, guided. And the more you affirm that through gratitude, the more your reality bends to reflect that belief. And the most powerful manifestors on the planet are not the ones who know all the techniques. They're the ones who've trained themselves to feel thankful in advance, who live with open hearts, open hands and open eyes, who don't wait for life to prove itself before they praise it, who say thank you through the waiting, the aching, the learning and the becoming. And in doing so, they open portals of abundance no logic could ever explain, because the universe is not logical. It is energetic, emotional, responsive to feeling, and gratitude is the most potent feeling of all, the one that creates a field around you so magnetic that blessings feel safe entering your life, because you've made space for them, because you've already celebrated them. And when you become that kind of person, the one who says thank you before it happens, you become unstoppable, unshakable, untouchable by fear, because even in the absence of form, you are full. And that fullness is what makes you a match for everything you've ever dreamed of and more. Number 8, you are always manifesting, even the wrong things. There is a truth most people resist because it demands responsibility, not excuses, ownership instead of blame. And Eva Hartley, in her paradigm-shifting work, Manifest and Receive, delivers this truth with graceful but piercing clarity. You are always manifesting, even the wrong things. And the moment you realize that manifestation is not something you turn on and off like a light switch, but a constant process, a 24/7 broadcast of your dominant vibration, your emotional tone, your subconscious beliefs, your mental habits, and your inner conversations, is the moment you reclaim your power, not just to create better outcomes, but to stop creating pain from the unconscious loops you didn't even know were still active. Because manifestation is not just about vision boards, scripting, or visualization rituals. It's about the energy you live in, the identity you embody, the story you keep repeating beneath your breath, the emotion you marinate in when no one's watching, and even when you're not trying to manifest. You are. Your thoughts are electric. Your feelings are magnetic. Your beliefs are the mold, and your reality is the printout. And if you've ever found yourself stuck in the same relationship dynamics, financial struggles, emotional spirals, or repeating outcomes that make you feel small, broke, invisible, or not enough, then what you're witnessing is not failure. It's proof that your inner world is more powerful than your outer effort. And Eva wants you to see that these manifestations, even the painful ones, are not punishments, but mirrors, divine reflections, showing you what frequencies, identities, wounds, and beliefs you've unconsciously fused with. Because the universe is not biased. It doesn't punish or reward. It responds. And it responds to the dominant signal you emit. Not the affirmations you chant once a day, but the emotional reality you live in moment to moment. And when that signal is grounded in fear, self-doubt, unworthiness, guilt, shame, scarcity, or resignation, it doesn't matter how beautiful your desires are. You'll still unconsciously recreate the familiar pain, not because you want it, but because some part of you is still expecting it, still identifying with it, still feeding it emotionally. And that's what most people don't realize. Manifestation is not a conscious-only process. It's a subconscious default system, and unless you become radically aware of what you're broadcasting, you will continue to attract versions of the past, no matter how much you consciously wish for better, because the universe matches your subconscious. Not your mouth, but your core. And if your core still believes, I always get left, I'm not good enough, I have to struggle to earn love, I don't deserve ease, then your reality will shape itself to validate those beliefs, and it will look like fate, but it's not fate. It's unexamined frequency, looping again and again like a broken record, until you press stop, until you sit with your pain not as a victim but as a creator, and ask, what belief is this proving true? What story am I feeding with my fear? And once you ask that with openness and courage, the unconscious becomes conscious, and you get to choose again, to interrupt the pattern, to reprogram your baseline vibration. And Eva teaches that everything starts not with action, but with awareness. The awareness that you are already manifesting, that your life is not happening to you, but through you. And if you can accidentally create the wrong things through emotional autopilot, imagine what you can consciously create through intention, to passion, to make something happen that you already need through intent, embodiment, and alignment. And this is where the work begins. Not just dreaming, but debugging. Not just visioning, but vibrating differently. Catching your inner critic mid-sentence and replacing it with truth. Noticing when you're about to spiral and choosing presence instead. Observing your recurring fears and meeting them with compassion. And the more you do this, the more you shift from manifesting pain to manifesting power. From recreating trauma to releasing it. From repeating old cycles to rewriting your identity. And here's what Eva makes beautifully clear. Manifestation is not just about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you really are. And when you live as your truest self, your reality has no choice but to adjust. Because the outer always bends to match the inner. And this means your work is not to chase outcomes, but to align your being, not to hustle for miracles, but to become the version of you who naturally receives them. And if that version has been buried under years of shame, rejection, or survival, then the process of manifesting the right things is really the process of remembering who you were before the world taught you to settle for the wrong ones, the wrong partners, the wrong jobs, the wrong identities, the wrong patterns. And when you wake up to this truth, when you say no more to being an unconscious creator of cycles that hurt you, you begin to wield manifestation like a sacred tool, not as a fantasy machine, but as an alignment system. And you start asking better questions. What am I rehearsing emotionally every day? What do I really believe about love, money, success, worth? What am I attracting by default and how do I change the setting? And this is not easy. It requires honesty, presence, inner work, but it is the work that sets you free, because once you master the awareness that you're always manifesting, you stop blaming others for what you co-create. You stop begging the universe for change while staying energetically the same, and you step into maturity, the spiritual maturity that says, I own my part, and therefore I own my power. And from that place you become unstoppable. Because now you understand that every word you speak, every thought you indulge, every feeling you dwell in is a signal. And that signal is building your next experience. And the beautiful part is this: you don't need perfection to manifest better. You need alignment. You don't need to control every thought. You need to raise your baseline. And Eva's message is this: stop waiting for life to give you better so you can feel better. Feel better now, and life will rise to meet you. And when you mess up, because you will, when you fall back into fear, doubt, lack, don't spiral. Just reset. Just breathe. Just choose again. Because the moment you choose a new emotion, a new story, a new identity, you begin manifesting something new. And deep down, there's something deeper than you that you could see in the moment, that you think you could do. Because the moment you choose a new emotion, a new story, a new identity, you begin manifesting something new. And even that awareness is powerful. The awareness that you are never stuck, only on repeat. And you can change the track at any moment. And the longer you hold the new track, the new frequency, the new self-concept, the more reality reflects it back with blessings that once felt impossible, not because they were ever out of reach, but because you were tuned to a station that couldn't receive them. And now finally you are. And that shift from unconscious creator to intentional manifester is what unlocks the door to a life you don't have to escape from, to love that feels safe, to abundance that stays, to joy that expands. And this is the true essence of manifestation. Not magic, but mastery, emotional mastery, the daily devotion to becoming the version of you who no longer creates pain from programming, but peace from presence. Not drama from wounds, but destiny from alignment. To feel an energy from love, to peel from presence, not drama from wounds, to destiny from alignment. And when you live like this, when you remember moment by moment that you are always manifesting, even the wrong things, you start using that truth to your advantage. And the things that used to feel random, chaotic, or cursed now make perfect sense. Not because they were fair, but because they were reflections. And now that you've upgraded the source, the reflection changes too. And that is the day you stop feeling like a victim of life and start walking as the conscious creator you were born to be. Number 9, everything is energy. Match it to receive it. There is one truth that underlies all manifestation, one foundation that explains every result, every delay, every synchronicity, every experience you attract. And Eva Hartley, with crystal clarity and deep emotional resonance, calls it what it is. Everything is energy. Match it to receive it. Because before anything shows up in the physical world, it exists first in the energetic realm, vibrating as frequency, as feeling, as possibility. And manifestation is simply the art of collapsing that energy into form by becoming equal to it, by tuning your entire being, your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, actions, and identity to the frequency of the thing you desire, so that the law of resonance can do what it always does: attract like to like, mirror vibration to vibration, bring experience to embodiment. And this is not just spirituality, it is physics, quantum reality, emotional intelligence, and energetic precision working together. Because you do not get what you want, you get what you are a vibrational match to. And this truth is both a revelation and a responsibility, because it means you don't have to chase what you want, you have to become it, align with it, live from the feeling of already having it, speak from the belief that it is inevitable, walk with the energy of course it's coming. And Eva teaches that most people delay their manifestations, not because they're unworthy or unlucky, but because they're trying to attract high frequency outcomes from low frequency states, asking for abundance while vibrating in scarcity, asking for love while anchored in abandonment, asking for peace while living in anxiety. And no matter how much you pray, visualize or journal, if your dominant energy is rooted in fear, doubt, neediness, or unworthiness, you are repelling the very thing you're trying to call in, not because you're being punished, but because energy doesn't lie, and you cannot receive what you are not a match for. And the key is not to fake the vibration, but to shift it authentically, to raise your frequency from the inside out. And that means healing, releasing, forgiving, reprogramming, and most of all, feeling your way into alignment. Because alignment isn't about pretending to be happy all the time. It's about being energetically honest and emotionally sovereign enough to choose the vibration that matches your future, not your past. And this requires awareness, because every emotion carries a frequency, and you are broadcasting constantly through your tone, your posture, your reactions, your intentions, your inner dialogue, your expectations. And the universe is always listening, not to your words, but to your signal. And when that signal becomes coherent, when your heart and mind and body and spirit are all aligned in the same direction, manifestation becomes natural, not because you forced it, but because you finally stop resisting it. And Eva breaks this down with soul clarity. Think of your desire as a radio station. It's already broadcasting, already playing somewhere in the energetic realm. And your only job is to tune in, not to build the station from scratch, but to match its frequency so precisely that you become a living antenna for that reality, and it cannot help but show up, because now there is no static, no interference, no contradiction between what you want and who you're being. And this is why she says manifestation is less about effort and more about energetic accuracy. And when you finally align your frequency to what you're calling in, whether it's love, wealth, joy, healing, clarity, or peace, it feels inevitable, not because it's guaranteed by fate, but because it's backed by frequency. And frequency never fails. It only reflects. And you must ask yourself, what am I reflecting right now? Am I aligned with the energy of receiving or the fear of losing? Am I broadcasting trust or tension, expansion or contraction? Because the energy you live in is the magnet you're holding, and the universe is responding with precision, not preference, not judgment, just vibration. And this is where true transformation begins. Not in manipulating outcomes, but in mastering energy. And Eva gives us the path. Feel what it would feel like to already have it, not just once a day, but as your new normal, your emotional home, your nervous system's new set point. Because when you stabilize that feeling, when you become the version of you who already has the thing comes not as a miracle, but as a match. And the deeper you go into this work, the more you realize that energy is not just a concept. It's the architecture of your life, the silent blueprint that shapes your reality in every moment and every shift you make. From fear to faith, from doubt to certainty, from control to surrender, is a recalibration of frequency, and that recalibration is what collapses timelines, processes, and balances to produce all the things that you call into you to do. And if you come from a place of comparing yourself to other people, from skepticism to complete confidence and change, from comparison to connection, to connection, to control, is moment to moment, controlled and influenced by soul, from sense of self to sense of connect, accelerates manifestations and opens you to receive what was always yours in potential, but not yet yours in embodiment. And now finally it can land because you made space for it, not by asking harder, but by becoming different. And this is the art of true receiving, to match the frequency of what you want so fully that its arrival becomes a byproduct of your being, not a reward for your striving. And Eva shows us that this is not magic. It's alignment, it's intention, it's frequency. And the more consistently you hold that frequency, the more effortless life becomes. Because now you're swimming downstream, not upstream. Flowing with your desire, not chasing it. Attracting from identity, not effort. And this is the secret the ancients knew, the mystics felt, the quantum scientists confirm. Everything is energy, and energy responds to coherence, to emotional alignment, to vibrational certainty. And when you become that, not for a moment, but as a way of life, you become a portal for the miraculous, a living magnet for everything meant for you. And it no longer matters how things will happen, because the how is handled by the field, by the alignment, by the resonance you maintain. And your job is to maintain it, to return to it, to recalibrate to it every time you fall. And you will fall, because life will challenge you, emotions will wobble, doubt will creep in. But Eva reminds us that frequency is a practice, not perfection. Bigger is still chetok. Eva reminds us that frequency is a practice, not perfection. And the goal is not to never dip. The goal is to bounce back faster, to shift quicker, to know where your power lives and return to it with grace. And when you do, over and over, the compound effect becomes undeniable. Things begin to move. Doors open, people show up, the money flows, the ideas spark, the healing happens. And the best part, you'll feel like you're doing less, but receiving more, not because you're lazy, but because you're finally aligned. And alignment makes effort exponential, because now it's backed by frequency, not fear, by joy, not force. And that's when life becomes a mirror you love to look into. Not because it flatters you, but because it reflects the energy you chose to live in, deliberately, consistently, powerfully. And this is your reminder from Eva. You don't need to try harder. You need to tune better, to regulate your emotional field, to clean up the static of self-doubt, to speak and move and breathe from the state of already having it. And when that becomes your natural frequency, the universe rearranges. Time bends, outcomes accelerate, and reality becomes the echo of your internal state. Because everything is energy. And when you match it, you receive it. Not someday, but soon. Not by striving, but by becoming. And in becoming, you unlock everything you once chased. Number 10. Trust divine timing, not your ego's urgency. There comes a moment in the journey of every soul when the heart knows what it wants, the mind begins to believe it's possible, and the spirit starts to prepare for the breakthrough. But the physical world still hasn't moved, and in that gap between desire and delivery, between clarity and completion, between calling and confirmation, something else rises. Urgency, that impatient voice of the ego that whispers, "Why isn't it here yet? What if it never comes? What more must I do to make it happen?" And this voice, Eva Hartley teaches with unflinching clarity, is not divine guidance, it's fear in disguise. Pressure dressed up as purpose. A false god of timing that tries to take the steering wheel of your soul's sacred journey. Because the ego, though clever, does not trust the unseen, does not understand divine orchestration, does not comprehend the quantum ballet of timing, synchronicity, alignment, and preparation that is always unfolding on your behalf. And so it rushes, it panics, it overfunctions, it pushes people away, it grasps at timelines it doesn't understand. And in doing so, it interrupts the very flow that was already in motion. Because what the ego fears most is surrender. And what the soul understands best is trust. And Eva makes this distinction beautifully. Your ego's urgency is not the voice of your intuition. It's the alarm bell of your unhealed past. Your wounded self scrambling to avoid perceived danger, terrified that delay means denial, that patience means powerlessness, that not yet means not ever, but divine timing operates on a rhythm deeper than logic, older than time, a precision so perfect it often appears chaotic until hindsight reveals the genius. Because when the universe moves, it moves with eternity's intelligence, not your temporary motion. And when you try to override that with urgency, you create resistance. You push what's coming away with your panic. You squeeze your blessings through the lens of control, and manifestation becomes mechanical, frantic, joyless, and brittle. But when you trust divine timing, you soften, you expand, you become the version of you who is actually ready to hold what you've asked for. Because sometimes the wait isn't about the thing being prepared for you. It's about you being prepared to receive it. And no matter how badly you want it, and you can't rush spiritual maturity, nervous system regulation, or the healing of the very patterns that would sabotage the blessing if it came too soon. And this is the wisdom Eva pours into every word. You must not confuse waiting with wasting or silence with punishment. Sometimes divine delay is divine protection. Sometimes unanswered prayers are upgraded answers in disguise. Sometimes the time between asking and receiving is the cocoon phase where your wings are forming in the dark. And if you cut it short, you cheat yourself out of the strength, wisdom, and alignment that would have made the manifestation sustainable. And she reminds us that timing is not just about when. It's about who you are when it arrives. Because if you receive the right thing at the wrong time, it becomes the wrong thing, not because it wasn't meant for you, but because you hadn't yet become the version of you who could fully hold it, honor it, expand with it, and carry it without collapsing. Because it destroyed everything you could fully hold it. And it is literally impossible to be complete. And so divine timing is not a test to torture you. It's a womb of transformation, a sacred gestation period where you are invited to embody the frequency of what's coming before it arrives. And that means choosing peace while you wait, choosing gratitude before it's visible, choosing alignment even when there's no external reward yet. Not as a trick to make things come faster, but because you understand that this posture of patience is part of the manifestation. This trusting state is what collapses time, and Eva invites you to shift from urgency to intimacy, to become intimate with your process, to stop trying to outrun your becoming, to let go of the illusion that faster is better, and remember that what's truly for you cannot be lost, cannot be delayed by human error, cannot be stolen by comparison or fear, because divine timing is not fragile. It's fortified by your faith, and every moment you spend worrying about when is a moment you miss embodying the why. And when you live in that energy of trust, not passive waiting, but active belief, your entire frequency changes, your nervous system relaxes, your mind clears, your heart opens, and suddenly life begins to feel supportive again, because now you're flowing with time, not against it. Dancing with the unfolding, not battling the clock. And that surrender, that sacred yes to the unseen, is the vibration that brings it all in, not because you forced it, but because you became it. And Eva reminds you that manifestation is not an Amazon Prime delivery. It's a divine partnership. And timing is the sacred rhythm of that relationship. And just like in music, a note played too early is as disruptive as one played too late. So if it hasn't arrived, it's not because you're failing. It's because the symphony is still building, and your only job is to stay in tune and to build its zone and listen to the symphony. So if it hasn't arrived, it's not because you're failing. It's because the symphony is still building, and your only job is to stay in tune, to stay in frequency, to show up with faith and let go of forcing. And if urgency tries to creep back in, and it will, don't shame yourself. Just return to truth. Return to the breath. Return to the mantra Eva offers again and again. If it's delayed, it's aligning. If I'm still waiting, I'm still growing. And I trust that what I want is on its way. Or something better. And in that moment, you step back into flow, into power, into the divine dance, where time is your friend, not your enemy, and manifestation becomes what it was always meant to be. A sacred unfolding, not a race against lack, but a rise into wholeness, into readiness, into sovereignty, where you no longer beg for your blessings or bargain for your breakthroughs, but receive them with grace, knowing they were always yours, not just in form, but in perfect timing, because you finally released the grip of urgency and surrendered to the precision of the divine. Number 11, manifestation is a lifestyle, not a one-time ritual. There is a reason why so many people try to manifest their desires with vision boards, scripting exercises, full moon rituals and meditations, and yet, despite their sincere intentions and occasional glimpses of progress, they find themselves still stuck, still waiting, still questioning why the reality they long for hasn't yet arrived. And Eva Hartley, with soul-penetrating clarity in Manifest and Receive, reveals the answer with power and grace. It's because manifestation was never meant to be a moment. It's meant to be a lifestyle, not a one-time ritual, not a temporary burst of belief followed by weeks of doubt, not a weekend workshop high that fizzles into your old identity by Monday morning, but a way of being, an energetic devotion, and every single day embodiment of the person you would be if the thing you desire had already arrived. Because manifestation isn't a thing you do, it's the result of who you are consistently, when no one's watching, when it's not convenient, when it hasn't shown up yet. And most people struggle, not because they don't want enough or try hard enough, but because they treat manifestation like a transaction, a shortcut, a magic spell, when in truth, it's a full body, full heart, full life recalibration of your frequency, identity, thoughts, choices, habits, and environment. And Eva invites us to realize that just like you don't become fit by going to the gym once, or become fluent in a language after one lesson, you don't become a powerful manifester through one journal session. You become a match for your desires when you live in alignment with them every single day. And that alignment isn't about perfection, it's about commitment. About returning to your center over and over again, choosing the energy of your future even when your past feels loud, staying in the vibration of worthiness even when life tries to trigger your old wounds, speaking like someone who already has it, walking like someone who already deserves it, making decisions from the perspective of the version of you who already is it. Because manifestation doesn't respond to words alone. It responds to embodiment. And embodiment happens through repetition, through lifestyle, through practice, through a new standard for how you show up in every area of your life. And that's what Eva teaches. Manifestation is how you breathe, how you think, how you eat, how you rest, how you treat your body, how you treat others, how you treat your dreams, because all of it is energy, and energy doesn't compartmentalize. You can't hold toxic beliefs about your worth and still expect to manifest a soulmate. You can't live in a constant state of stress and expect to manifest peace. You can't feed your mind with lack and fear, and expect abundance to grow. And so your lifestyle is the message you're sending to the universe, not just the 5 minutes of affirmations you whisper in the morning, but the hours of unconscious beliefs you replay throughout the day. And when those start to shift, your entire life begins to reflect that new level of truth. Because the universe listens to your energy, not your calendar. And when your whole life begins to embody the vibration of your desire, manifestation becomes inevitable, not as an exception, but as your new baseline. And Eva shows us that living manifestation as a lifestyle means taking radical ownership. No more blaming luck, no more hoping the stars align, no more waiting for signs before taking aligned action. It means you become the sign, the signal, the magnet, the frequency, and you don't wait for the thing to come before you. Live like it's already yours, because when you do, it must arrive. That's law, not luck. And this lifestyle isn't about hustle, pressure, of forcing outcomes. It's about alignment, integrity, intention, and joy. It's about creating space for what you want in your mind, body, home, and spirit. It's about upgrading your self-talk, your self-care, your standards, and the people you allow into your energy field. It's about learning to regulate your nervous system so you can hold more abundance without sabotaging it. About learning to rest without guilt so your body stays in receiving mode. About protecting your peace like a sacred currency. Because Eva reminds us that manifestation can't land in chaos, it lands in coherence. And coherence comes from living a life that is already echoing the truth of what you desire. And the more your lifestyle reflects that truth, the more magnetic you become. Not just in moments, but as a way of being. And this is why temporary rituals don't work long term, because they are fleeting signals surrounded by hours of contradiction. And that's not your fault. It's your conditioning, your programming, your nervous system. But now that you know better, you get to live better, not through pressure, but through practice, not through punishment, but through presence. And every time you choose to act like the version of you who already has it, you strengthen the signal. Every time you interrupt an old story, you shift the pattern. Every time you hold the frequency when your old self wants to collapse, you tell the universe, I'm ready to hold the blessing. And when you live that way consistently, when your habits, thoughts, choices, boundaries, and standards become expressions of your future, not reactions to your past, manifestation stops being an event and starts being a rhythm, a heartbeat, a flow, and from there, results begin to compound, timelines collapse, people, opportunities, and miracles show up, not because you forced them, but because you aligned with them. And this is the power of making manifestation your lifestyle. It becomes who you are, not something you chase, not something you beg for, not something you remember only when you're desperate, but something you live, breathe, speak, and radiate, so that every area of your life begins to rise to meet the energy you've chosen to maintain. And that is true mastery, true sovereignty, and true co-creation. And Eva's invitation is this: stop treating manifestation like a magic trick and start treating it like your default setting, your soul's compass, your new normal. And when you do, when you stop checking if it's working and start trusting that it is because you're walking in frequency every day, that's when you become the person who doesn't just manifest occasionally, but who lives in a perpetual state of alignment, of reception, of miracles. And you don't just experience breakthrough once, you become breakthrough not because you're trying to be perfect, but because you finally understand that when you commit to living manifestation as a lifestyle, the universe commits to meeting you there every single time. Number 12. When you surrender, you open the flow. There comes a point on every manifestor's journey, no matter how much they visualized, affirmed, journaled, or aligned, where the path narrows into silence, where the desire feels close but just out of reach, where the action becomes exhausting and the mind begins to grip tighter out of fear that letting go might mean losing everything. And it is in this exact moment Eva Hartley reveals with piercing tenderness in Manifest and Receive that the true art of manifestation is tested not through more effort, but through surrender. Not the kind that means giving up, but the kind that means letting in. Letting the flow of life take over. Letting divine intelligence move through you. And she says clearly, when you surrender, you open the flow, because it is only in surrender that we stop being the bottleneck to our own blessings. Only in surrender that we dissolve the ego's illusion that we are alone, that we must control every outcome, force every result, prove our worth through hustle and pressure. But the truth is, manifestation lives not in the squeeze of fear, but in the spaciousness of trust. Not in overthinking, but in allowing. Not in rigidity, but in fluidity. And Eva shows that we've been conditioned to believe surrender is weakness, passivity, quitting, when in truth it is the ultimate power, the boldest faith, the highest energetic alignment. Because to surrender is to declare, I trust that what I desire is already on its way, and I will no longer interrupt it with my worry, my doubts, or my controlling. And this declaration is not made once, but daily, sometimes hourly. Every time your mind wants to spiral into how, when, and what if, every time your nervous system starts to panic because nothing's moving yet, every time your old programming screams that safety lies in control, and instead you pause, you breathe, you soften, you say, I surrender, and in that surrender, the tension breaks, the resistance drops, and suddenly the thing that felt stuck begins to flow again, not because you fixed it, but because you released it. And this is where true manifestation begins. Not when you grip harder, but when you let go deeper. Because energy cannot flow where it is being micromanaged, cannot move freely when it is being policed by fear. And Eva teaches us that the energy of receiving, the very essence of manifestation, only exists in openness, and nothing opens your field like surrender. Because when you surrender, you are no longer trying to manifest from survival but from soul, not from desperation but from devotion, not from force but from faith. And this shift is subtle but seismic. It moves your entire frequency, from needy to knowing, from lack to love, from urgency to peace, and the universe can feel that. Because the moment you surrender, you tell life, I trust your rhythm more than my plan. And that trust creates space for miracles, for synchronicities, for inspired action that flows to you, not forced by you. And this is the great paradox Eva reveals, that surrender is the most magnetic thing you can ever do, because it is the signal that says, I am no longer resisting the blessing. And it is often in the moment we stop chasing that the blessing turns around, not because we gave up, but because we finally stop blocking it. And this doesn't mean you do nothing. It means you stop struggling, stop over-identifying with the outcome, stop tying your worth to whether it comes or not, and instead align your identity with the flow of creation itself. Becoming someone who acts from inspiration, not fear. Someone who follows nudges with calm confidence instead of frantic grabbing. Someone who creates not because they must, but because they can. And when you live this way, everything changes. You become more magnetic, more intuitive, more guided. And suddenly, the path becomes clear not because you demanded clarity, but because you surrendered into it. And the fog begins to lift, not because you pushed it away, but because You relaxed your grip and let the light pour in. And Eva reminds us that so much of our delay comes not from what we're missing, but from what we're holding on to. The timelines we insist on, the methods we're attached to, the outcomes we obsess over. And when we finally loosen our hold and say, "Universe, I trust you. Bring it in the right way, at the right time, in the highest form," we invite intelligence greater than our mind to take over, and that invitation opens portals our planning never could. Because manifestation is not just about attraction, it's about alignment, and nothing aligns you faster than surrender. Because surrender says, "I am safe even here, even now, even before it comes," and that safety becomes the very foundation upon which the new is built. And Eva gently but powerfully invites us to practice this kind of surrender not occasionally but as a lifestyle, a moment-to-moment energetic posture that meets every challenge, delay, and unknown with a soft heart, a calm nervous system, and a deep knowing that just because I don't see it yet doesn't mean it isn't already on its way. Because in the unseen realms, things are shifting, aligning, arranging, and the more you trust that, the faster they land. And this is not spiritual bypassing. It is energetic mastery, emotional intelligence, and divine remembrance that you are not alone, never have been, never will be, and the need to control was only ever a trauma response, not your true self. Because your true self already knows that surrender is not the end of effort, it's the beginning of ease, not the end of action, but the beginning of alignment. Not the absence of movement, but the presence of miracles. And the more you surrender, the more you receive. Not less, because now you're working with the universe, not against it. Moving with the current of creation, not smoothing upstream, and manifestation becomes smoother, faster, fuller, not because you pushed, but because you dared to say, "I don't need to see it to believe it. I believe it, and that's why I'll see it." And this frequency opens gates that forcing never will. And Eva teaches that every time you surrender, you widen the channel, you unkink the hose, you release the resistance that has been slowing the flow. And that one breath of trust, that one decision to let go, to release, to soften, can do more for your manifestation than weeks of mental striving. Because manifestation is not about proving your worth, it's about remembering it. Not about earning blessings, but about aligning with them. And nothing aligns you like surrender. Because surrender puts you back in your natural receiving state. Open, grounded, peaceful, magnetic. And that's when everything starts to come in, not because it finally could, but because you finally let it. And this is the invitation Eva leaves us with. To surrender every day, in small ways and big ones, to let go of the belief that controlling equals safety, to stop clenching your way into blessings and start relaxing your way into miracles. And when you live that way, with your hands open, your heart soft, your faith unshaken, you become the vessel for everything you've been praying for. And the flow, once blocked by fear, begins to move through you, around you, for you, faster than you imagined, deeper than you dreamed, and more beautifully than you ever planned. Number 13. You are not separate from what you seek. You are it. There is a sacred illusion at the center of most human suffering, the illusion of separation, the belief that what you desire is somewhere far from you, that abundance lives in a future you haven't reached, that love is waiting in someone else's arms, that peace exists only after everything is fixed. And Eva Hartley, in her spiritually seismic revelation in Manifest and Receive, unmasks this illusion with lightning clarity. You are not separate from what you seek. You are it, not metaphorically, but energetically, spiritually, quantumly, wholly, because everything you want is not outside of you, waiting to be earned, chased, or begged for. It is already within you, encoded in your very being, vibrating as frequency, waiting to be remembered, unlocked, embodied, and reflected back by reality. And the painful irony is that we spend so much time, effort, and energy trying to reach something that was always waiting to rise from inside us. And Eva invites you to pause right now in your body, your breath, your silence, and feel the gravity of that truth. You are the vibration of what you want. You are the seed and the soil, the prayer and the fulfillment, the door and the key. And your work is not to become worthy of it, but to realize that you already were. To drop the false identities you've picked up, the brokenness, the scarcity, the shame, the not enoughness, and return to your original state, whole, divine, magnetic, powerful. And when you begin to live from this knowing, not the intellectual kind, but the embodied kind, you stop chasing manifestations like crumbs and start walking like the meal. You stop shrinking to fit timelines and start expanding to match your truth. And this is not ego. This is essence, not arrogance, but awakening. And Eva wants you to understand that the very thing you desire most, whether it's love, peace, purpose, healing, or freedom, is not something the universe will drop into your lap when you've finally done enough, but something that is already vibrating within your field, waiting for you to claim it by being the version of you who already carries it. And this shift from separation to oneness is not just spiritual poetry. It's the most practical manifestation tool you'll ever use. Because when you realize you are what you seek, you stop resisting it with your disbelief. You stop creating distance through doubt. And you stop feeding timelines where it never arrives. Because you're constantly affirming its absence. And instead you begin affirming presence. I am love. I am abundance. I am peace. I am the frequency of everything I thought I had to chase. And when this becomes your energetic identity, your outer world bends to reflect it, because life can only give you what you are willing to be, not what you merely ask for. And Eva teaches that becoming is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world convinced you otherwise, before trauma, comparison, rejection, and conditioning whispered that what you are is not enough. And she urges you to reclaim that truth like your life depends on it. Because it does. Because every moment you live disconnected from your power, you suffer. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it cannot override the story you tell yourself. And the moment you change the story from "I'm not there yet" to "it's already in me," your reality begins to rearrange, not slowly but instantly, because energy responds to clarity. And this clarity, the clarity that you are already whole, already connected, already vibrating at the frequency of your desire, is what collapses the gap, dissolves the delay, and activates the timeline where everything flows through you, not to you, and you no longer manifest from longing, but from remembering, no longer from emptiness, but from overflow, no longer hoping the universe hears you, but knowing you are the universe expressing itself as you. And from this place of divine identity, you become untouchable by lack, unshaken by delay, unwavering in your joy, because your happiness is no longer tied to what happens, but to who you are. And Eva reminds you that no one can give you what you already are. They can only reflect it. And if you feel blocked, it is not because the thing isn't coming, It's because you're still identifying as someone who is separate from it. And the moment you come home to yourself, the moment you look in the mirror and see not a seeker, but the source, not a beggar, but a creator, not a victim of timing, but a master of energy, that is the moment you stop manifesting from fear and start receiving from your true self. The self that never needed to earn, perform, or prove anything, only to remember. And when you live from that place daily, not just in moments of clarity, but as your baseline, the world rises to meet you with echoes of your truth, reflections of your power, confirmations of your alignment. And the chase ends, not because the desire disappeared, but because you finally became the version of you who already has it. And reality had no choice but to agree. And so now, after all the awakenings, revelations, realignments, and unlearning, we return not just wiser, but reborn. Because Manifest and Receive was never just a book. It was a sacred remembering, a divine initiation back into the truth of who you are. And as this journey concludes, Eva Hartley leaves us with more than tools. She leaves us with a vibration, a map back to ourselves. And if you felt something shift, even if subtly, hold it gently, but surely. Because it means your soul heard something deeper than words. And you now know that your desires are not random, but remembrance, not wishful thinking, but soul assignments coded into your DNA. And from this moment on, may you never again chase your worth, delay your becoming, or shrink your light to appease the past. May you walk in the frequency of everything you seek, speak from the energy of fulfillment, act with calm, knowing that what is for you is already finding its way through the folds of time. May you treat surrender as strategy, joy as alignment, stillness as sacred, and trust as your native language. And now, let us close this sacred circle with a prayer. Divine Intelligence, Infinite Source, thank you for awakening every soul that reads these words to the power they carry. Thank you for removing the veil of separation and restoring the remembrance that we are not waiting to become worthy, we already are. Thank you for collapsing every timeline of fear, shame, doubt, and delay, and guiding us into a reality where miracles feel natural, where peace feels familiar, where abundance is not a surprise but a reflection. Bless the reader now with unshakable clarity, sovereign alignment, divine protection, and radical ease. May every desire encoded in their heart unfold with perfect timing, perfect grace, and perfect joy, and may their life be the living proof that when you align, surrender, embody, and remember, all things flow, all things come, and all things are already yours.